Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Sacred Balance by Osh Wellness. After the amazing response of our first episode, we are so excited to bring you another deep and insightful conversation. I'm Shruti, a mother of two and the founder of Osh Wellness, a brand dedicated to bringing Ayurveda and holistic healing to modern wellness. This podcast is all about blending ancient wisdom with modern science to help you feel your best inside and out. Today's topic is a really important one, but it's something so many people experience, yet it is rarely talked about. And we want to break that silence and deep dive into miscarriage and Ayurveda and healing. And to guide us through this conversation, we have a very, very special guest, Sunny Rose Healy. Sunny is just not a dear friend, but also a powerhouse in the world of Ayurveda. She's a mom of two, an advisor to Osh Wellness, and the expert behind all our product formulations. With 2 decades of experience in cleanse, detox, and perinatal health, she brings a wealth of knowledge to our conversation today. Hi, Sunny. We are so excited to have you here.
Hi, Shruti. It's nice to be here.
Before we deep dive into our conversation about miscarriage, which can be definitely very long also with all our heart, I would definitely like our audience to know a little bit about you. I know I've spoken a bit, but I would like them to listen from you only. That would be great.
Okay. As Shruti said, I'm Sunny, and my company is called Mama Ayurveda. I make product formulas myself. It's mostly skincare and fun things like that. Oil massage, which is so great for women and mothers. And I see clients. And I've been working with Shruti for, oh my gosh, I don't know, 10 years? 8 years? I don't even know now. It's like got to be close to a decade by now. I've been an Ayurvedic practitioner and teacher for 15 to almost 20 years now. I don't even know how long it is. I'm a mother of two, and I live in New Mexico. So that's a little bit.
I can really vouch for everything Sunny said here. She's an amazing, she's really good. In my experience of knowing her for 10 years, I've been always in awe of her knowledge, like the way she knows about things. And I have always gone back to her for everything I need information on Ayurveda. Today, we'll be discussing a lot of things and about miscarriage. But to start and talking deep into this topic, before that, I have one question which has been always coming through our client. And that's basically when somebody is planning to get pregnant, what should a preconception care should look like for them from Ayurveda perspective?
This is such an important question because, as we know, Ayurveda tells us that how we prepare is really what sets us up to be able to conceive, in good timing, to be able to have a healthy pregnancy, and it even translates eventually into the birth that we have, right? And the health of the child and the health of the mother. So it's like so infinitely important. So the way that Ayurveda talks about preparation for conception is we kind of have 4 factors. And it's kind of interesting to translate this into a modern context, but I think it makes sense. So we have the field, like the space where the baby will grow. And that, of course, is the uterus, the womb, and everything connected, right? I would even consider that the vaginal canal, because all of that has to be healthy and happy and harmonious in order for this all to happen. And then we have what's called ambu, which is the fluids. And that's not just the fluids in that area, but it's the fluids, it's the nutrition, basically. We can look at it as the fluid nutrition in the body. And then we have bija, bija means seed. So it's both the egg and the sperm. We want to make sure those are healthy. And we could speak volumes and hours and all day on just how to opt that. But this is something that can be looked at, or maybe we can talk about more in the future on these podcasts.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have those elements. And then we have timing. And that's such an interesting one because it's not something that we look at a lot in Western science. We're like, oh, I'm ready to get pregnant, I'm getting pregnant. But what does it look like to have proper timing? And that can be so many things. But we could look at that as, for example, if I just came off the pill a week ago, that's not going to be proper timing because we need time to prepare the body and we need time to make sure there are no nutrient deficiencies and health issues and things like that. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, we're looking at really taking the time slowing down when we're finally going, okay, I know I want to get pregnant at some point. Now I take the time and I start taking prenatal vitamins, and maybe I do an Ayurvedic cleanse with a practitioner. Simultaneously, I would urge people to go see their OBGYN and just make sure the blood work looks okay. How's the nutrition? How is the A1C? How's blood sugar? How's insulin and things like that? Check the thyroid. Let's check progesterone levels and hormone levels and just see, does everything look like it's pretty much in order? Okay, then I can just focus on preparing from an Ayurvedic standpoint. And that cleanse and rejuvenation period that we would recommend in Ayurveda will do things like remove excess dosha. So if we have high vata, pitta, or kapha, that can create issues down the road. So we want to kind of tridoshically balance ourselves and nourish ourselves in order to prepare.
That's quite fascinating, yes. And so just while talking to you, one thing came into my mind, which is when we look at the modern science and how OBGYN says, like, you should start preparing yourself 6 months before. Once you're trying to actively start conceiving, because they want everybody to have a proper folate in their body and proper calcium, because that's what your baby takes in the first folate throughout, but in the first trimester, a lot of calcium goes to the baby, etc. From Ayurveda perspective, this preconception care timing, is it something similar, like 6 months, or how people do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think 6 months is wonderful, and I love that doctors are starting to say that to people, because that's not what I think happened in the past. It was like, oh, just get pregnant, the baby will take whatever it needs, right? So I love that science is kind of catching up with, like, oh, we really do need to be replete with nutrients and things like that. From the Ayurvedic perspective, 6 months is fantastic. And if you have a year, so much the better, because it really depends on what's going on. If there are chronic health conditions, well, then we want more time. If a person is generally healthy, feels good, there's nothing really wrong, there's no pain, inflammation, yeast infections, signs of hormonal imbalances. If we don't have those things, then 6 months should be plenty of time to do an Ayurvedic cleanse and rejuvenation program and really get ready. But if we know we have underlying health concerns, then the earlier, the better.
No, I get that, yes. Unfortunately, with the changing world and having kids as not that early a priority in our lives. I was also a mother. The first time I got mother, I was 33-year-old. Everything went fine. I'm very happy that I was healthy enough to have 2 pregnancy back-to-back safe. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world anymore. Everything around us contribute to us being having a tougher pregnancy or tougher lifestyle. So when you said that this 6-month period is good, and in general, you are into the stage of a lot of women have to push the pregnancy till 35, 36. Mm-hmm. Those are the age when you start being considered like a high-risk pregnancy. That happened with me with my second child. But in my mind, I felt pretty clean, pretty healthier. I didn't think that I should be going on a very longer cleanse, and my periods were aligned. What are the few signs which you can see that people can read into that? In general, sometimes some things become normal in life. Like a lot of my clients comes back to us and they have extremely irregular period. And when I say irregular, that doesn't mean that they don't get periods every month. Mm-hmm. The regularity, sometimes they'll have heavy, sometimes they'll have low, sometimes they have 2 days, sometimes it's 5 days, but every month consistently. But in their head, that has become a new normal now, because that is how they'll be leading it to it. So it's still a question mark, because once you start actively trying to get pregnant, that's when these factors starts playing a role. It's hard to track your periods. It's hard to track your ovulation. Mm-hmm. And it's all this thing. So do you have any things you have noticed with your clients, any such points which have always led to slightly, I wouldn't say difficult pregnancy, but longer time to conception?
Yeah, I mean, I think mentioning the irregular periods is perfect, because our periods as women are an indication to us of our level of health and balance or imbalance, right? So we might say, exactly as you're saying, oh, well, I'm having a period every month, I must be ovulating and everything must be fine, but that's actually not necessarily true. You're not necessarily ovulating, or it's possible that your ovulation window is short, and that could end up being an issue. So because you're mentioning this period situation with the irregular periods, I would really recommend tracking. I highly recommend getting to know fertility awareness method. even if you're not going to like actively take advantage of it, either for contraception or for conception, but just to get to know your body better is really important, right? So first level, you're just tracking your cycles. When did I start? How many days did I bleed? You're maybe tracking like how heavy were there clots? Did I have pain? Because when you work with somebody, if you need to work with somebody, they'll ask you those questions. Those are really important indications. Is it bright red? Is it dark red? You know, things like that. Yeah. They're actually very important and they tell us a lot. So tracking your cycle, level 1. Level 2 would be taking your temperature first thing in the morning with a basal thermometer. It sounds like a pain. It's pretty easy, and you can even get the Bluetooth ones that connect and will automatically send the information to your phone if you don't want to deal, right? You can make it very easy. This is powerful information because now we have another level of info, and you'll actually start to be able to see if you ovulated and when you ovulated, and that's very powerful information, right? It's more powerful than using ovulation predictor kit, an OPK.
Oh, really?
I think it's more helpful. Now, if you're having problems and you really need to pinpoint things, then I would recommend using both. But something that you're doing every month where you can actually look at, I ovulated here and then I ovulated here, that's more powerful than just checking, am I currently ovulating, right? Yes. Because you can see the temperature climb, and then you can see, does it drop? Does it continue? Like, when does it drop? What's going on? It gives you a lot of health indications. So we'll stop on level 2 because level 3 of that process is checking cervical mucus, which is also great, but some people just don't want to get that far into it. But I highly recommend at least doing that much because it's a really good indicator of so many things. So I got a little off track on that one.
No. Every information here is really helpful. There's no off track, frankly. I feel people need to know a lot, especially first-time moms. And when with the age, they are always in a hurry at one point of time. So with everybody saying the clock is ticking, which nowadays the clock has already moved. So it's fine.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're talking about age. I had my first child at 37, I have to tell everyone. So
that's amazing that you're sharing that, Sunny. Yeah.
I never had to be called a geriatric mom or high risk because I worked with a midwife and I didn't go to the hospital. At, 37 with my first and 41 with my second, and I never had any problems. And I had 2 home births. So, not to say like, oh, that's so great, but just to let people know what's possible. That you don't have to, it doesn't mean that things have to be problematic just because you end up starting later. It can be great if you take care of yourself.
Yes, that's true. Having a kid at a right moment is more important than just having a kid because somebody else decided that there should be a certain timeline for having a kid. And unfortunately, with everything around us, it's easy to get into that trap. And thank you so much for sharing that because that's like a home birth, 37, 41. We have so many mothers who are like, first-time mothers who are at their 40s and they're like, oh my goodness, my doctor said this, my doctor said that, and my kid can have autism, things like those. It can go to that level. Yeah. And which is very scary for a first-time person who is just trying to get into something this beautiful. Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that, like, yes, they need to say those things. If you're seeing a doctor, they need to give you the warnings. And also, you don't have to take it all in that way.
It's also the part of their duty, which we should very much appreciate. But at the same time, you have to listen to our bodies. What does it say? Yeah, that's amazing. So from there, something which I unfortunately, even if we take so much care, miscarriage can happen because there are many reasons for it, and there's so many things which we don't even know about. And miscarriage can be something as simple as having a miscarriage at 4 weeks or maybe at 6 months. It does still falls under the same category.
Right.
So just to let me know, what dosha imbalances do you think can cause this, and especially from the Ayurveda perspective?
Yeah. I mean, so for those of your listeners who maybe don't know much about Ayurveda, I just want to say we have 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is kind of the more mobile, light, airy, the air quality, the wind quality. Pitta's mostly fire, and Kapha is that earthy, solid quality. So any like extreme imbalance in Vata, Pitta, or Kapha can create a miscarriage, or can be involved, let's say, in a miscarriage. And we might have more than one involved. So I don't want to make it too complicated, but let's just explain that perhaps Vata is responsible for this Apanavayu. Apanavayu is One of the things that it does is it expels the fetus when it's time, right? It's also responsible for urination and bowel movements and all of these things. But the other thing it does is it holds. So it will hold the pregnancy. So if we have an imbalance there, sometimes it could be simply everything's going great and the nutrition is there and all the things are there, but Vata's overactive and we end up with a miscarriage. That's one thing that can happen, right? And then when we have Pitta, we might have things like inflammation and infection and just too much heat and irritation, and that can potentially lead to miscarriage. It's not to say when we're talking about the doshas that there are not hormonal things involved and other things that we would look at more from a Western perspective, but this is sort of Ayurveda's way of describing it doshically. With Pitta, with inflammation, with irritation, we might have some crazy hormonal fluctuations happening too, and that could be at play. With things like Kapha, we have more kind of the solid things happening. So maybe there were fibroids, maybe there's endometriosis, actual tissue growth, actual physical blockage that might be happening, okay? And there are so many other possibilities, right? I'm not describing everything possible here. But those are just some examples of ways that if doshas are quite out of balance, that they could end up coming in and creating some havoc that could result potentially in a miscarriage. I don't want people to think, oh, if I have a slight imbalance that I'm going to have a miscarriage or things are going to go wrong. We're talking about kind of probably more chronic, long-standing issues that would be really well addressed by the preconception care that we talked about, right? So, yeah, but those are definitely some things that can come into play, right? We have some more kind of physical movement issues. It could be hormonal imbalances. And then there could be sort of physical manifestations that hopefully we would know about those things before getting pregnant, but you never know for sure, right?
Yes, definitely. No, that's what I actually glad that you put that thing into it. Like, it has to be something chronic. It cannot be just a slight imbalance, because we all have that slight imbalance at one point of the time in life, unless that we are really living our life really. And so, especially with terms of PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, tube blockage. So if I look at the modern science, they say you have a lot of hormonal imbalance, or you had, and that's the blanket statement for everything, that you ended up getting this. And then it seems like, and then frequent miscarriages for women, it kind of puts everything back, like it becomes a circle that if I have a miscarriage, if I have an hormonal balance, then I'm again not going to get pregnant. So it's important to address these things, and there are ways to address these things. And I'm glad that you put it forward. And even if you don't look at Ayurveda perspective, we can see at what kind of imbalance it has created in your body. And look at these chronic concerns so that you can first deal with them before even trying to get into the pregnancy and taking a pregnancy up to term. So it's really important. So thanks so much for sharing that. But everyone, whosoever is listening to us, if you ever need more information on this, Sunny is there. You can always reach out to us, or you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer with whatever knowledge we have, or guide you to the practitioners who can help you. It's not that easy on a podcast to tell and talk about everything, but it's good that we touched upon these things, because we do say with our own clients that this has been a recurring concern with people when they even had like first amazing easy pregnancy, and then the second one ended up having some kind of a chronic condition, which they didn't realize it grew over the year, and it kind of started showing itself during the second pregnancy. So a woman body is, I wouldn't say complicated, more deep than anything else. Yeah, and unfortunately, we always have a blanket statement for everything, which definitely doesn't work. Please feel free to reach out. This was, so that gets us to the most important part, which is basically, we have talked a lot about miscarriage, and we have talked about this also, that yes, unfortunately, it can happen and can have many reasons. But if somebody has had that, so the biggest two concerns people have is that what kind of a it might not be the right term, but what kind of a post-miscarriage routine they should be following. And how can they help their body to heal? Your post-miscarriage routine should look like in that case.
Yeah. So this is, I think, very interesting for everybody to know, is that it doesn't really matter how long you were pregnant. The way that I look at how you should care for yourself and how you should support yourself with care from others is just as if you were pregnant. Now, maybe you weren't pregnant that long, right? It depends on how far along you are. If something happens, unfortunately, and, maybe it's 6 months and the baby is lost, right? And we have to induce or something like that, then you would definitely take care of yourself the same way, just like postpartum, because that's a pretty long pregnancy and you need that much care. But let's say it's maybe 8 weeks. 8 weeks, okay? 8 weeks since last menstruation. You still should follow Ayurvedic postpartum care, but you might only need to do it for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks. It depends on how you feel. That's why it's variable. So you really have to check in with yourself. Ayurveda is individualized care. Like you just said, there is no one size fits all. This term covers everything. How do you feel? How's your energy? How's your vitality? Do you feel healed? Okay, then maybe you can end that care. And how that care would look, generally speaking, is you're going to rest a lot. We know that sometimes in miscarriage, women want to get back to work. I'm fine. This happens all the time. It's felt like a period. And then they start bleeding again. And then, you're losing things and you can become anemic. So you have to be really careful with yourself, gentle. Put your feet up, have someone else do the cooking and cleaning for a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Have someone else do the laundry. And be really gentle with your digestion, because your digestion is a little bit lower after postpartum and also after a miscarriage, because your body has been working very hard. So like soups and stews and khichdi and dal and things that are just kind of very simple one-pot meals. You can nourish yourself with nourishing herbs, whatever that might be in your case, depending on if you have someone you can work with that can recommend it. Otherwise, you could take the golden milk would be an awesome one. Golden milk tonic with hot milk, or maybe with some almonds and dates. Make it warm. Have that, have an easy meal, put your feet up, get support. And then when you're done bleeding, or mostly done bleeding, you can do your abhyanga, your oil massage, to really nourish yourself. And that's about it. Get a good night's sleep. Tell your work that you need some sick leave. Right?
Yes, definitely. No, that's actually amazing, because you need to listen to your body, because there's a difference. If it's 4 weeks versus 6 months, but at the end it was still a miscarriage, so you need to let your body heal.
Yes.
And but I feel like it's like listening to your body. See, if you can't get up, you can't get up. That's where you need to rest.
Yes.
And tell me one thing, because you were just talking and I realized that if somebody's early on their miscarriage, like they had a miscarriage in 6 weeks or 4 weeks, and how drastically will it look different from a regular period? Because sometimes people just assume it's my regular period.
Right. I mean, if we're talking 4 weeks, then that's when you'd get your cycle anyway. So it might not look very different. And in that case, most people probably won't even know they're pregnant, right? Some people, like if you're really trying and you're taking your pregnancy test and you're actually doing it like 5 days before you're going to start, then maybe you would know. And then you get your period on time and it's like, well, that didn't take and it released early on. It'll probably be pretty similar to a regular period. But in that case, I would say just emotionally, you might be disappointed, you might be sad, and it's okay. Like, please let yourself feel those things. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, of course, it's the further on we go. And in those cases, it can be very heavy. It can be very crampy. It can make you feel very weak. So I think if someone's having a miscarriage at 8 weeks, 10 weeks, please don't go to work or go running or whatever it was that you were going to do, right? Again, it's like I always want to encourage people to be more gentle with yourself than you would even think you need to be.
Yes.
And because a lot of times women are also going to say to me, well, I can't because I have children or whatever. Okay, but if you know sort of what the ideal is for caring for yourself, then you can slightly scale back from there if you need to based on your responsibilities. But let's not start with the sort of, I don't know, what we hear a lot, at least in the States, of like, you can do it, you can get up, you can go running, you can go to work, you don't need to take care, like, you're good, you're strong, you look fit, whatever it is, it's BS. So
it's
just understand sort of what the ideal is and then go from there.
I love it. Yes, it is. Yes. It's like, oh, you can do it and it'll take your mind off. No, it's not going to take my mind off.
Right.
It's just going to make me miserable. Sometimes we need to let our emotion guide us, and that's fine. And it's hilarious, yes, but people need to rest.
Like you're saying, a lot, like we don't talk about miscarriage enough, right?
Yes.
And so I think that right there alone makes people feel isolated or like something's wrong with them. And so I think just knowing like it's incredibly common. It happens all the time. Ask 10 women that you know, and probably at least 3 or 4 of them will have had a miscarriage at some point. So just knowing also that just because people aren't talking about how hard it is or how well we really need to care for ourselves doesn't mean it's not the case.
And on that thing, because you said it's not, it is actually common. And one thing I've been telling to all my clients that unfortunately, we women take it on ourselves. We were like, okay, this has happened, there's something wrong with me. But sometimes it's not. You need to look at it from every angle. It can be the sperm, it can be you, it can be just the environment. It can be just that, like sperm changes every 3 months. It can be that phase of the sperm. And then when you get pregnant next time, it can be a different story altogether. So first of all, we all need to think from the perspective that we have to be more generous to ourselves than anybody else, because that's where we kind of lose all our hope when we start questioning our own selves, especially miscarriage, since it's not so much talked about, so you don't have so much support. As much you have a support in terms of pregnancy, because everybody's talking about being pregnant. So yes, so just be generous to yourself, guys. Talk, maybe find a person who listens to you and tell them how you feel, and maybe listen back and see what they have what recommendation do they have for you in terms of taking care of yourself. And again, I'm repeating myself, but just listen to your body, because I think that's the best. And there's nothing else more important. So I'm going to maybe just wrap it up with a very important question, which we have been helping a lot of women with miscarriage. We have that beautiful preconception cleanse, which we kind of tell people to use if they have had miscarriages or they're starting to prepare their body for conception. And the one question which has always come back to us in terms of they see it more like a birth control cleanse, in which because they have been on birth control for so long and they don't know what the reasons are, but they've just been on it from like starting 14 or 16 years of age. And when they come off, there's no right answer to when you start getting pregnant after that. Some people being lucky, their body falls into rhythm automatically, because when they were on birth control, they were 14, but when it got off, it was 30. And somehow in the process of all this, their body automatically kind of puts itself in motion. Whereas some people have a hard time, like they take years and years before even they feel normal again, and go back on birth controls, things like that. So what my question is that if somebody is getting off birth control, what is an ideal way, and especially looking to get pregnant, to get off these things and start preparing for conception?
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it's not a simple answer like most things.
I do it.
Yeah. But if you're coming off birth control, I mean, one thing is like, how long have you been on it? Birth control pills do tend, and any hormonal birth control can actually cause nutrient deficiencies. So, you can certainly get testing to see if you have nutrient deficiencies, but you can also just immediately cover your bases. You're coming off with, this is in the context, right, of wanting to get pregnant, so you might as well start taking a really good prenatal, vitamin D3, possibly CoQ10, especially if you're over 30. And, there are certainly other things, but we're hoping that that's covered by the multi. But one of my questions, like if this is a client of mine, would be, what were your periods like before? Did you go on because you're simply wanting to prevent pregnancy, or did you go on it because you were having pain and irregular periods and other things going on, and your doctor put you on the pill to see if you could regulate that, right? Because what happens when you come off is you're going to have to then confront all those issues that you went on for. Birth control will never fix any hormonal issues, unfortunately. So, if there were irregular periods, pain, maybe even signs of PCOS, and there are several different types of PCOS, we'll have to confront those things now and actually uncover and excavate like what's really going on. So some advice that I would give to somebody who went on the pill in order to try to regulate discomfort, pain, and signs of hormonal imbalances would be, get ready, prepare yourself mentally, and don't see the signs of imbalance that are coming up as an indication that you should go back on birth control pills or Something like that, because you're going to have to dive into it and really go into what's going on with your body. And you're probably going to have to work with a holistic health practitioner, Ayurvedic practitioner. If you don't have somebody available, maybe a Chinese medicine practitioner, somebody that can really help you dive into those hormonal imbalances from sort of a chronic traditional health, tackling perspective. Of course, you should keep working with your doctor as well, but hopefully you can find a team that can help you deal with those issues, right? If there were no major issues beforehand, though, then you could probably come off the pill and you might see a return to periods. The bleeds that we have when we're on birth control are not actual periods. A lot of people don't know that. They're just pill bleeds. So you're going to start to see, this is what your periods are really like. Again, fertility awareness methods. Start charting. When are you getting your cycle? What are the qualities? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it medium? Is there pain? Just get to know your body again is what I would say. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, makes sense. Yeah. So the good thing. So whoever's listening to us, you just have to make sure that if you're coming off birth control pills, you just have to give yourself some time, understand it better, and not jump back into it. Because it's just gonna become a circle where you are constantly on birth control pill and trying to get pregnant and unfortunately miscarriages, and you will not know deep dive into what actually is contributing to it. Because if we see naturally our body is supposed to, as women, we are supposed to be able to carry the baby to the term. If we are healthy, if all our markers for getting pregnant, especially our periods and everything is healthier, and if something is feeling off, we should start kind of not investigating, but start at least listening to it and see if we can provide it proper support and heal. So that definitely works. Yeah. This was really a very, very insightful and eye-opening conversation. So definitely thanks for sharing your wisdom and taking our time and making space for this important topic. And anyone who's listening to us today and if they think this kind of is resonating with them and they want to share it with someone who might need to hear it, please do, because in something like this, it's very important to know that you're not alone. And I'm hoping that this episode and all the knowledge Sunny has shared will bring some clarity, support, and healing to you. Thank you so much, Sunny. This was amazing. And you all know Sunny. She has already mentioned she has a company called Mama Ayurveda. Please reach out to her. Or if you want, you can reach out to us and we can guide you to her. We would love to if you are going through any kind of a thing which you need a deeper look into. Thanks, Sunny.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you so much for everything you do to support women.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.